Hello there and welcome to Laurence Plays Factorio Planetary Pioneers, where we've got more than 20 planets, more than 30 research packs, and 5 players, and quite a lot of insanity. And thanks to the increased number of planets, well, we've had to split the party even further in the last stream. We started off with Mark and Safir working on Norvis, building up the train system, with myself, Mike and Tristan out on Maluna trying to get a system up there that will produce some space science. Unfortunately, we had, let's just say we had some alerts coming in from Lignumis, the forest moon that we started off on. And when we investigated a little bit, it turned out there were quite a lot of the little wriggly guys attacking the place and doing quite a lot of damage. So over a couple of streams while we've been away from that planet, they've been gradually expanding, increasing in numbers, and they finally got to the point where they've been able to punch through the walls. So with a little bit of panic, we dispatched Safir off in a rocket from Norvis to use Mike's little spaceship to fly over to Lignumis and drop down there in an attempt to create a little bit of sanity. And this took him a little while because, unfortunately, we don't really have an enormous amount of rocket launch capability at the moment. We've only got the 2 silos, and they're not being fed the blue circuits quite as quickly as we'd like, due to a bit of a shortage of copper, I think it is. Yes, there's not enough copper coming in here to make the blue circuits fast enough to make the rockets as fast as we'd like to be able to make them. And so that's been limiting us rather a lot, and that meant we couldn't send him over with hundreds and hundreds of turrets and red ammunition and laser turrets and all of the sort of stuff that he really could have done with. We ended up having to send him over basically just himself. And so he collected as much as he could of the wooden turrets, wooden ammunition, and went out there and he managed to defeat the attacks that were coming in, and then started to repair the defences, do some upgrades here and there, and just generally improve the place. And that brings us to the point we've got to now, where, well, he's managed to push them back quite a bit. So now we've got, if we turn on the pollution view, you can see our pollution cloud is now being contained entirely inside our walls. It turns out all the walls are really, really good at blocking pollution, so this double layer stone wall has helped enormously. And that's keeping the noise pollution away from the enemy nests out here, and he also went out and pushed them back again, because they'd expanded, as enemies do in Factorio, and got quite a lot closer, which was causing some issues around here, and hence was causing the place to get beaten up a little bit. The main upgrades he's performed are increasing drastically the number of turrets around the outside of the base here, so hopefully this will be about enough to sort of protect the factory against any further incursions. And as we know, external corners are difficult, so he's put in extra turrets up here to protect those. That's great. And also and also upgraded the wooden wall that we had around the outside to a stone wall. And so that's an interesting one, because when we were on Lignumis, I'm pretty sure it was Safir himself who did it. Yes, he put together these furnace stacks that are creating the stone bricks. So great, we had the stone bricks available, but we didn't have the technology to pile them up on top of each other and make walls. That was something we had to research after we got to Norvis. So we've been able to build these wooden walls, but we didn't know how to make stone walls, even though we had stone bricks. The stone bricks were just for the wooden science pack, apparently, and maybe used for elsewhere. I'm not sure. So since then, Safir came in. He grabbed enough of these stone bricks. I don't see any machines making them. Oh, and actually, yes, I do. Up here, he's got a machine making lots and lots of the stone walls, and so he was able to use those to upgrade the wall around the outside of here to a brick wall and keep the place safe. We'll note that we are still using the wooden ammunition and the wooden turrets, and everything else is still down on the original Lignumis sort of technology scale, because we didn't bring in any other sort of higher tech stuff with us, or with him when he went over there, due to the aforementioned lack of rocket support. But this has made the whole place significantly more protected because of the extra turrets and the significantly stronger walls. As you can see, a stone wall has a health of 350. A wooden wall has a health of 150, so the stone wall is more than twice as strong, and it's a double layer wall, so it's again going to be so it's about 4.5 times as much wall strength there, which means you get that much more time for the turrets to rip the enemies apart, and so I think the place is going to be able to do a lot better. There's also, I think, quite a lot more ammunition on the belt, and I don't know whether that's because he's changed it or it's just the way things have bunched up a bit. Looking over here, yes, we now just have a steady stream of ammunition going out onto the belt, so rather than having gaps in it to save on resources, we're now just going, you know what, let's have as much available there as we possibly can. One of the issues we ran into as the wrigglers got through the wall was that when they break the belt somewhere, then all of the turrets after that point would suddenly have a shortage of ammunition because the belt would take it all away. And so they'd be even worse at actually defending the area and preventing further attacks. And so once a breach was made, it tended to spread fairly quickly, much more so than I'm used to seeing. And that was unfortunate, but we do seem to have got that more or less sorted. I think, looking at this, I think Safir has also expanded the ammunition production quite significantly over here, because there's been quite a bit of evolution, so I think the wrigglers are now significantly tougher than they used to be. That said, we should now be safe for a decent amount of time, because as you can see, the pollution isn't anywhere near any of their nests, so they probably won't attack until they just sort of naturally expand out into the pollution area, and then then we may start to have problems again. So the question is, what do we want to do about this in the future to make it better, to make it safer? So there are a few possibilities. The most obvious one is to ship some better weaponry over from Norvis. So if we shipped in a load of perhaps solar panels and accumulators, or maybe boilers and steam engines, we could actually get electricity on this planet, and that would mean we'd then be able to have roboports around the edge of it, and construction bots, which means we'd be able to then repair the walls when the biters attack. I don't mean biters, I mean wrigglers, but you get the idea. So that would keep the place a lot safer, and would mean it would sort of be self-healing, at least as long as it didn't run out of resources. We would of course have to then upgrade all of these wooden chests to red chests, but that's not difficult. That's certainly well within our capabilities. And there's a decent amount of fuel coming out of the peat collection over here, so that could be burned and that could be made into electricity. Or alternatively, as I say, we could go with the solar route, which would be much lower maintenance, and we wouldn't have to worry about running out of peat over here. We could also, if we're getting electricity over here, we could also upgrade some of these to laser turrets, which don't need the ammunition. We could drop in a certain amount of red ammunition as well, which would absolutely shred the wrigglers, because they are very, very weak enemies. However, that is a resource that would very quickly run out, so that would be something that would be worth having on the planet and available for anyone who needs to drop in an emergency to do some work there, but I don't think we should use that for the main turrets around the outside. Another thought for the future is that we are going to start needing steam science packs on other planets. And so that means we're going to have to start shipping them from here. And that means we either need to start shipping them from here in the form of steam science packs, or we need to start shipping the gold out. And either of those are certainly possibilities, but we'll have to see which is going to be more efficient in sort of rocket launches. Because on this planet, we don't have any of the stuff we need to launch rockets. I mean, sure, we can launch the wooden rockets over here, but they have to be launched manually, and it wrecks the silo every time they launch. So Safir has got another silo being built here, so he can get off the planet eventually once he's ready to leave. Maybe when he does, we should ask him to bring an entire rockets full of steam science back, because we can't make that without the gold. Or alternatively, to bring back an enormous quantity of gold. Either way, as I say, whichever we decide is the cheapest logistically, is probably the one we should go for. But in order to automate that and get it working in the long term, we're going to have to bring in a rocket launch silo to put on this planet. Fine, that's not too unmanageable, but then to keep it going, we're going to need to bring in the low density structures, the rocket fuel, and the blue circuits from, presumably for now, from Norvis, because it's the only place that's making them, in order to get everything up and working on this planet and allow it to start launching the steam science packs. And so that's going to be some extra infrastructure required, and it's going to require a bit of a modernization. And I think at the moment we still can't build the deep miners for the gold patches over here. So any sort of gold production that we do have running on this planet is still going to have to be from growing the little gold algae rock things, the stromatolites, and producing the gold through the system that we've had working on there before. So this system hasn't gone end of life yet. We are going to need to carry on using it, whether that is just shipping out the science packs or shipping out the gold. Either way, we are going to need that gold. Safir has commented that it wasn't actually all that much fun being dropped solo onto the planet and then having to go in and clear out what was quite a major infestation of Wriggly guys by the time he got out there. They were, yes, there were a good few of them out there causing trouble, and it did take him a few stages of running back and forth, sort of fighting fires and then trying to build up infrastructure and then going out to fight another fire before everything he'd built up got destroyed again. So it did take him a little while, and understandably, because the place had turned into a bit of a mess. And he says it would have been much more fun to drop back in with sort of good gear, so the red ammunition and maybe flying armor, except we haven't got that yet, and just do a massive upgrade on the planet. But unfortunately, we weren't in a position really to be able to drop in with overwhelming force. It was more of a panic. Oh no, we need to get someone out there before the wrigglers wreck the entire place. As you can see, we've got a couple of destroyed science labs up here that haven't been repaired, and the whole place took quite a beating, as you saw in the earlier video. He did say, though, it was very, very satisfying to sort it out in the end, and he's credited me with the idea of putting in the stone walls, which is very nice of him. Maybe it was my idea, I don't remember for sure, but yes, the stone walls are going to have made an enormous difference there, I think. He also observed that that's now doing much, much better at keeping the sound in, the pollution set noise. And I think I do remember hearing from someone, I think it might even have been the mod author, that the trick is to have multiple layers of walls, and that will cut down on the pollution very, very quickly and effectively. And it seems the stone walls have done very well at that too. Maybe, I think he's still out there. Maybe we should suggest that before he leaves he puts in yet another layer of walls around there, because there is still some purple getting outside and causing a bit of some unpleasantries in the outside world, particularly up here. The rest of it actually seems to be okay. I'm just trying to eyeball how big the grid squares are. So yeah, down here these ones are overlapping with the wall, sure, but they are getting cleaned up before they go outside. And the same over here, I think these are in the same sector as the wall, so that's getting cleaned up. But up here in the north, we have some is actually escaping. So yes, perhaps a little bit more wall round here, like this, would be a good idea before he leaves. Maybe even 2 layers of it. I don't know. I'm not sure how much wall is available and whether he's got the bots to do this. But having something like that, and then yeah, as I say, maybe even another layer of it around the outside like this would be an enormous help, and would help to keep the peace, should we say? You know, good fences make good neighbours and all that sort of thing. But I think that brings the video nicely to a close. So yes, there was an absolute crisis out on Lignumis, but Safir went out there and very efficiently sorted it out, even if it did take a bit of fighting to get the wrigglers to start behaving themselves. It would be quite nice to just be able to sort of properly forget about this planet, but having noticed, as I was talking about in a previous video, that a lot of the future researches require the steam science packs and the wooden science packs, but Mike made those on Norvis a couple of weeks ago. They require the steam science pack, so we are going to have to bring them in from Lignumis somehow, and they do require the gold in order to build them. So yes, we do still need this planetoid, and so therefore some further expansion out here is going to be required. But that's going to come in a future video, so please make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out. And we'll be streaming further progress on Monday at 7:30 PM UK time on Twitch and YouTube as usual. These videos come out every Thursday and Friday, and if you fancy something a little bit different, come along on a Wednesday evening to watch some Foundry, which is it's a bit like Factorio, but in a Minecraft world with all the cubes and stuff like that. And there's also a load of space trading in it as well, so it's quite an interesting game. I'm enjoying playing it, so yeah, come along, stick your head in and say hi. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.